Alrighty. Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome. Thank you for being here. It's lovely to see all of you. I've been looking forward to this session. It's our last official session in the business container. And I have popped quite a lot of this sort of detail into the WhatsApp group, but I'll just reiterate verbally so that you guys can all sort of know exactly where we're at. So just waiting for a couple more people to come in. And I know there's a few apologies for this afternoon as well. Can everyone hear me okay? Yeah, good. All right. So today is our final group session. The WhatsApp group that we currently have will remain open until the end of this month. So you've got the opportunity to drop in any of your questions, things that you want to share, things that you want to celebrate, etc., etc. And that also means that until the end of this month, you've still got WhatsApp support with me as well. So you can direct message me personally. And we've been doing a pretty good job of doing that sort of when it's not necessarily something that's appropriate for the whole group. So the only reason that we're doing some of them as sort of direct messages is if it's something specific to your business that won't benefit everyone to have to kind of read through. So that remains available till the end of October. And then you've got until the 15th of November next month to finish up all of your one-to-ones. So some of you are done with your one-to-ones. Some of you I haven't even seen properly yet. So wherever you're at, you've got until the 15th of November. I'm pretty sure everyone's got all their one-to-ones booked in now. I've just was looking at the log and yeah, I'm pretty sure we're all good on that. But if you haven't yet booked, I definitely recommend you do because it's pretty full. So that's that. Now, I do want to let you know what the next opportunities are if you want to continue getting support. And it's basically really simple. There are two things that you can do. One is that you can take this program again from beginning to end next time I run it at half price. So you can pay $1,000 and you can go through the whole program again. And the next time I run it will probably be the beginning of March, end of February, beginning of March next year. So I'm just putting that out there now. You certainly don't have to commit or think about that yet, but it's an option for you. My gut instinct is that most of you don't need to do that, honestly. The last cohort I did, very few people did. The first one I did, quite a few people did come back and do it again. But I think that's because many of them were at the very, very beginning of their business journey. So those of you who might consider doing it again at half price, the people who'd get the most benefit from that are those who are very new to business. Those of you who've been in it for a little while, probably you don't need that. But if you want to go through the material again, if you want to be in the group calls again, if you want that level of support again, that's an option. That aside, and like I said, I honestly feel for most of you it isn't needed. The other option is a private membership that I have, which is only open to people who've done this group program. So you're the third group that have gone through the program. At the moment, I've got 12 members in that private membership, and then included will be any of you guys that join. It's $50 a month. It's super cheap. Like I wanted it to be really, really, really accessible, a no-brainer. I just would love you to sign up. What you get for that $50 a month is you get to be in a WhatsApp group, which is for members. It's very, very similar to this group. So you'll switch over from this group when it closes, and you'll go into the membership WhatsApp group. Probably many of the people from this group will be in there with you. So you'll have some familiar friends in there already, plus people who've already done the group program before and are, that group's established. We meet once a month on Zoom and we do a group call, and it's really a check-in, a Q&A. Sometimes I do a little bit of like teaching material. Sometimes I might have a guest teacher as well. You'll also get discounts and things like that on other things I run in Bhakti Business. I'm definitely going to be on a bit of a go slow over Christmas and the New Year because it's Christmas and the New Year. But come February, March, I'll be doing more things, and then you guys will get, discounts and what have you on those. And then you also have the opportunity within that to get one-to-one WhatsApp support with me as well. So basically, it's the WhatsApp support continues There's a group option, and then there's the one-to-one, and then we have a once a month call. I definitely could have charged a lot more for that, and I considered it, but I just wanted it to be like a no-brainer for people to come into. And also, I was talking to my partner about this morning. It's really interesting for me because most of the stuff that I teach has like a conclusion to it. So for example, if I teach a retreat, the retreat comes to an end and that's it. Or Ayurveda Goddess, you get your certification. Yoga of Birth, you get your certification. Yoga teacher training, you graduate, right? So a lot, like 90% of what I've taught over the last few years, particularly the bigger ticket items, like, you know, this training is $2,000. There's an end. Whereas with this, because business doesn't end, for me, it feels a bit strange. It's like I feel like I'm sort of, I don't know, it's sort of similar feelings like, you know, letting teenagers out into the world to find their own way. Like I feel very invested in all of you growing your businesses and applying the teachings that we've been learning together. And I just want to carry on being able to be with you and support you and, you know, offer the kind of help that I have, I hope. And so that's why I made the membership just really, really affordable, because I'm a little bit attached to staying on the journey with you and watching you continue. And it sort of feels odd to me that we end and then off you go. And, you know, for many of you, I feel like you're just at the beginning of being about to flourish. And I'd love to be there to witness that and to support you through that. So that's all of that. Today's session, I would love to do a check-in with each person. I'd love to hear from each of you. And specifically 2 questions, which I actually popped into the chat a few days ago. And some of you replied, but most of you didn't, I noticed. And I think these are really, really useful questions to reflect on. Like, these are questions I ask myself in my own business over and over and over again. The first question is, what am I learning? Or, you know, we can put it in past tense and say, what have I learned? And then the next question is, what are my most important next steps? Now, these 2 questions never get old. There's never a time when they expire. There's never a time when they're not relevant anymore. Whether you're at the very beginning of your business or you are, you know, years in, I think they are questions that we need to keep asking ourselves over and over again. And they're what help you to keep progressing. And I actually wanted to start today just by sort of means of warming us all up by sharing with you in my business where I'm at with those 2 questions, just because it's interesting, I think, and helpful to have these points of references. So in terms of what am I learning, for me at the moment where my business is at, the online component of my business, and I'm talking not about Bhakti business now, I'm talking about Bhakti Rose, which is my yoga and Ayurveda business. And I think of Bhakti Rose as being 3.5, nearly 4 years old. Like, although I've been teaching yoga and teaching, you know, these types of trainings forever, I haven't been teaching them online. And so the online incarnation, if you like, of my business is 3.5, nearly 4 years old. And so I think of it as being a 4-year-old business because it's, you know, everything was different when I changed into that online space. So what am I learning? What I'm learning at the moment is I'm going back to a place where I need to expand into having more support. So for a long time, it was, you know, just me doing everything, like website and creating content and organizing and back-end logistics, like just a lot of me. And I'm really glad I did that. Well, first of all, because I had to. I didn't have a big budget to be outsourcing, but also because I've really learned all the moving parts of my business. Like, I know it very intimately. But I'm definitely at the stage now where I need to lean into investing more in staff and in support. So that's one element that I'm learning. The other thing that I'm learning, and this feels like a lot for me, and this is, you know, I'm sharing this with you just purely to give you, for no reason other than just to give you perspective of where different people's businesses can be at. So 4 years in, I'm learning that I can do more than one thing at once. So up until now, I've only ever run one launch at a time, one program at a time, one special event at a time. It's like, do the thing, have a little break, next thing, have a little break, like this. And now my business has expanded in the last, probably since the beginning of this year. And that was another big learning, because I had a very, very quiet November, December at the end of 2023. And everyone was talking about recession and economic downturn. And I definitely had a moment of like, oh my goodness, you know, am I going to be in trouble here? Because in many ways, an online business is not, it's not a particularly robust business. You know, it's only as stable as the next launch and people purchasing what you're selling. So that was kind of a scary moment. And then at the beginning of this year, I just decided I'm not buying into that narrative. I'm not going to buy into the narrative that there's an economic downturn and no one's buying. I'm just not giving it energy. And so I really focused on doing my best work and sales and marketing and launching the business programs, which I had planned to do. And actually, I've had the best year I've had so far. I've had a year that's continued to be in expansion. So I think that says a lot about the energetics of what we choose to tap into and the stories we choose to tell ourselves. So anyway, that was another big learning. But that aside, it's sort of like, I know some of you don't have children, but I know many of you do. And even if you don't have kids, you run a household, most of you. Don't you feel, and maybe I'm biased in this, or like, I don't know, maybe this is just my own thing, but I notice this not just in myself, but I notice this in so many of my female friends, that the mood of the matriarch in the home sets the tone for everyone. And I find it so disappointing. Like, I would love to be able to be in a bad mood and for other people in my home to not be so impacted by that, and just like someone else to be the person that holds space for everyone to be all right. But unfortunately, what I notice in my home is if I'm very tired, in a bad mood, whatever it might be, just cranky, everyone very quickly descends into that space. It's almost like I'm the energetic space holder. And I think it's really the role of the matriarch. Like, it's what we do as women, holding space for our families. And on one hand, it's really beautiful. And it's kind of in many ways what we're meant to be doing. And on the other hand, it's so exhausting because it's all on us. I can see some of you at least are relating. So I'm glad I'm not barking up the wrong tree. So the reason I'm sharing that is because it's so like that with our businesses. It's so the same, right? If you come into your business and you feel upbeat, positive, focused, excited, the sales come, the people come, the social media buzzes, like everything is amazing. But the minute you have a flat day or a kind of, you know, just a not very focused day, whatever it is, you can feel that palpably in the energy of your business so quickly. And that's where being self-employed is so different to having a job. Like, when you have a job, you know, you can have those days where you go to work, and it's been a long time since I've had a job, but I do remember. And it's like, oh, I'm feeling a bit shit today, I'm just going to cruise, you know, like I'm on autopilot. I'm not going to give 100%. It might not even be a conscious thought. It's just like, oh, I'm here, but I'm not fully here, right? You do that in your business will be impacted within hours. Like, it's like an energetic, like your family. It has that same, you have that same power in your business. Now, that's beautiful in some ways, because it means you can steer the ship and you can bring a lot of energy and you can create magic and you can manifest. On the other hand, if you're feeling a bit tired, fragile, emotional, depleted, numb, whatever it might be, it's a lot to have to keep showing up in that way. It's a lot. And that's why these communities and these networks and these memberships are so important. Like, I'm still in a group with Victoria Washington. We meet more than once a month in a group container and we get support. And without that, I would feel so much more lonely and so much more isolated in my business than I do right now. So anyway, all of that's a bit rambly, but I know that you guys are, you know, I know that many of you can relate. And Kim's asking, how do you sustain the consistency when things are feeling tough? I think that's such a good question. There's a few things I do. So and these are unique to me. They might be different for all of you. It's going to depend on your personality and your own individual situation. But for me, one thing I know is I can recalibrate very quickly if I get some time on my own. So my world is such that I'm very overexposed to people a lot of the time. Like I have a house full of children ranging in age from 1 to 16, and it's super busy all the time. So I get very and I'm naturally quite an extroverted sort of sociable person, so I have a pretty big capacity for it, but I get very frazzled if it just gets too much. So alone time is really, really important. And I don't need much, just like a morning to myself or an afternoon to myself, and I can really recalibrate quickly. Another thing that really helps me is reading motivational books. I read a lot of books about business and running online businesses and money and marketing and stuff like that, and they help me stay really inspired. I also listen to podcasts and talks from my teachers, where it could be yoga and Ayurveda related, or it could be business related, and I find both of those things really help to inspire me. And then all my practices, meditation, yoga, journaling. If I'm really in like a funk and sort of, because I'm Pitta, my tendency will be I won't get deflated, but I'll just get frustrated and annoyed with everybody and like short fuse. Journaling really helps me too, just to kind of brain dump it all out. And my partner's pretty good. Like he'll listen to me have a big whinge and just kind of, he's Kapha, so he can just absorb that and be like a big kind of, sponge that kind of absorbs it but doesn't take it on. So that helps as well. So they're my things. And another one for me, which sounds really silly but actually does really help me, is cleaning and tidying up too. Like I find if my environment feels really clear and clean, then I feel a lot more ordered. So if I'm feeling very frazzled and overwhelmed, I'll often tidy my desk, even just actually do some cleaning at home and listen to a podcast. And that can really help. The other thing that can be helpful is if you're trying to do something that's causing a lot of frustration, like let's say you're trying to fix something on your website or set some tech thing up. They're the things that frustrate me the most. And it's just not working. Just switch and do something else for a while and come back to it. That often helps as well. Yeah, you might have your own other strategies. It's pretty personal depending on what it is that works for you. It can also really help. Another thing that helps me, because I can get very, very immersed in the world of my business and my work. Like a lot of my friends, most of my friends are yogis and they're into the stuff I'm into. So another thing that can be quite helpful is going and spending time with people that have nothing to do with running their own business and nothing to do with yoga or Ayurveda or the wellness industry. So like my partner's family, or I've got a couple of friends that like close friends. Yesterday we went to Sydney Park and flew a kite with a couple of my friends who have nothing to do with any of this work, and that helps too, because it's just like a complete change. Yeah, so maybe those things are helpful to you. So where was I? Oh yeah, learnings and next steps. So that's some of my different learnings at the moment, and for me it's all about being brave enough to expand into the next step. So, that helps me really relate to those of you who are at the beginning stages and you're spending money on your businesses and you're putting a lot of time and energy in, but you're not necessarily getting returns straight away. And that can feel really exhausting and like a lot. I'm sort of in a next level phase of that, where I'm about to start spending more money on having more support and more infrastructure and just spending in order to expand. And it doesn't matter what stage you're at, that's always feels a bit scary. But is absolutely necessary. Like if you don't invest the time and the energy at the different stages of your business, you stall it before it even begins. It's just, you have to put, it's usually one or the other or both, some amount of time, some amount of energy, and probably a bit of both to keep progressing. And then next steps for me are actually, at the moment, it's about creating quite a lot of new material because I'm going to be launching a couple of completely new trainings that I haven't run before next year. So I'm starting to think about writing those. And then I'm also in the process at the moment of launching my new book, which was supposed to be coming out in January. I've just found out yesterday that it's coming out at the end of December, which is a very strange time, pretty much between Christmas and New Year. So we'll be doing a lot of New Year promotion around that. And I'm thinking about launching that and how I'll launch it and what that will look like. And again, just in the interest of being completely honest with you and completely open, when I had a meeting with the publishers yesterday and they told me the date had been brought forward for the launch, I was like, I felt so overwhelmed and so tired at the thought of it. I was like, oh my God, like another big launch, big project, lots of work. And I'd really planned pretty much to take December off and then do the launch in January. And basically they just got on a Zoom call with me and they were like, you will not be taking December off. And I was like, oh, okay. And again, this is the nature of being self-employed, right? Like there's plenty of days where I'm walking the dog in the park of a morning and it's a beautiful day and I've got my coffee and I think I'm so lucky that it's like 10 o'clock in the morning and I'm here, my kids are in school, I'm relaxing, and this is my life and I don't have to work really, really hard. But then at the same time, it's 4:30 on a Sunday afternoon and I'm working. I mean, this really doesn't feel like working, but it's work. And things can change in your business at any given point, and a time when you thought you were going to have a lot of time off suddenly is really intensive workload. And you have to remember the sacrifices that you made in these times when it feels good and easy. Like you will get to the point where you have times where money comes in and you're like, wow, I made that money and it felt so effortless and I got to do it doing what I love. And this kind of sabotage thing can start to happen where it's like it should be harder. And you have to remember all the times when it is hard, which are the times when you work when other people are sleeping, and you work when your kids are sleeping, and you work when you don't feel like it, and you launch when you're unsure. And also not just the practical, like working when others aren't working, but the emotional resilience of, I'm not going to give up, I'm going to keep going, I'm going to back myself, I'm going to feel vulnerable, I'm going to do it anyway, which again is where many people give up. And the difference between people that really build sustainable businesses and those that don't are the ones that don't give up. I did a coaching call with Victoria Washington last week, and she was talking about this almost the whole time. She was like, the biggest gift you can give your business, and I think this is such good advice, is that you just keep going. That's the biggest gift you can give your business. Like you just don't give up. You just keep showing up. You keep moving forward, even if it's in micro ways, because it's so much easier to just give up. It's so much easier to just go, oh, you know what? It's all too hard. So that's a little bit of where I'm at. And I really want to hear from you. What are you learning at the moment? What are you leaning into learning about? Like, what's the flavor of the learning for you right now? And also, what are your most important next steps? And of course, some celebration around how far you've come will be part of that. So let us know, how you're feeling about how far you've come, because I think that's a really beautiful reflection too. So yeah, let's just go through one by one. Who would like to jump in first? Kylie.
Hey Katie, hi everyone. So lovely to see you all. What I'm learning at the moment, which I think is probably one of the most valuable lessons that I've learned all year, and that is literally if I want to do Ayurveda massage course, then that's what I have to focus on. That's what I have to do, not do other things, not like focus on getting just focus on the Ayurvedic massage course. I've got to advertise for that. I've got to concentrate on that. When I talk to people, I've got to talk about that. Like this has got to be my focus. So I think this is a very, very valuable lesson. And it just registered to me only a couple of weeks ago. And it was a client on the table that told me that was a recommendation of theirs. My most important steps at the moment is so I've got 5 people in my course. Yay! Yay!
Such a celebration. Such a celebration. It's so good.
I
Well
know.
done.
I'm so happy. And actually, I'm getting some course interest from other people as well. So my biggest struggle at the moment, what I want to put into place is databases. So somehow I've got to like put these people who are interested in the course in a database, put the people who are in a course in a database, and just really get some systematic things happening. Like, so at the moment, I'm just emailing them uh, just individually, and I don't really have a system. So I've been trying to save the good emails that sound good and thought, oh yeah, that'll be good for email 1, email 2. But yeah, so to be able to put them all into place in the computer, so I can just pick it, and all the links as well, you know, when you've got to email links and things like that, just have them handy instead of having to, oh, where was that, you know. So that's it for me.
Yeah, beautiful. So you need some systems. You're starting to get your numbers, which is amazing. You got your focus, which is awesome. So good. And now, and this is again, this is something that happens in every business as it grows. The need for systems expands. So I mean, you and I are having a one-to-one session tomorrow, right, Kylie? Yeah, so we can talk about that tomorrow. We'll talk about what systems might be good for you and how you can get all of that set up. But it's
I'm
really
looking forward to it.
yeah, me too. It's really beautiful to identify when that's happening, when that need for
You've
like
had a lot of biscuits
this.
and a lot of
Oh, I'm just
sugar.
going to mute.
Find some-
That was Peter. I just muted you, Peter. Sorry. It's all right. It's really important for us to know when we need those expanded systems, right? And then you've identified it. And the good news is that you've identified it before everything's got too messy. So you can get it all in place. And the other thing is, and many of you are learning this at the moment because you're setting systems up that you will then replicate. You only have to do these things once. You only create the system once, and then it keeps serving you for future groups. So in the beginning, a lot of work, but once the systems are in place, then you just keep reflecting, reproducing them each time. Good on you. I'm so happy that you've got 5 people. That's just so fantastic. Well done. Who's next? Anita. Anita, can I ask you, because it was so inspiring to me, like honestly, so inspiring. Can I ask you to share with the group the whole story around our last session, like you're naming your business, create like just the whole backstory, because I think it's so beautiful. I think everyone will love to hear it.
Well, thank you. Okay. Can you hear me? Okay.
Yes, perfect.
Beautiful. So I originally created my business name Rock the Mat and was going with more of a yoga-based, primarily yoga-based business style. And then having started this program and delving a little bit more and chatting with Katie as well. And what I was going to say, just backtracking a bit to the question about what I've really learned, which you know in yourself anyway, because this is the beauty of intuition, but really believing and holding on to what we know in ourselves to be true as an offering, as opposed to what we believe will be actually wanted in the market. So rather than trying to create around what people might purchase, actually just stay in alignment with who you really are and what you enjoy. So whatever that is, right? So that's one thing I've learned, and that comes back into this story. So over the weeks and looking at the WhatsApp chats and things and just doing my own stewing, and then I had another session with Katie, and then it was like I sat on the couch and I was just writing, and I was struggling with a name, and I had sort of a concept in my mind, and I just sat down quietly and it all kind of just fell through me. Without being too esoteric, but it did feel like a channeling. It just flowed. And my grandfather was a magician and an acrobat, and I grew up with my grandparents. They raised me here in Sydney, but they migrated from India back in 1966 with my mum and their other 3 children. Anyway, long story short, my grandfather was essentially my father figure from my life, and absolutely the person I've admired most in my life, and had this amazing ability magically to create something out of nothing, which he literally did. He was an orphan. His father died when he was 15. He had a younger brother. Their mother left when my grandfather was only, sorry, he was the younger brother. So left when he was only 1 year old. And they were in India and they had no way of fending for themselves. So he went and illegally forged his way through the Navy, and that's how he survived. And when he left, he just did odd jobs. He was an undertaker. He did all these things. And then, of course, when he met my grandmother and they had, you know, hopes and dreams as they do, they slept on top of someone's garage on camp cots because they had no money. And being really industrious, an entrepreneurial spirit, he decided that he would teach himself magic and acrobatics. And so he literally started just practicing with what he had around him and ended up traveling around India for years and went on to have 4 children. And 3 of those children, including my mum, were a part of the show, and my grandmother. And then they migrated to Australia, and he did it for a while, like for corporate. He worked for Qantas when he came here. So he did like corporate Christmas parties, and he actually taught other Australian magicians.
This is the best story anyone has ever heard. Like, I love it so much. It's so good.
He was an amazing man. And, you know, his acrobatics, he used to do like chairs on tables, so chairs on tables. And in those big, back in the day in the Anglo-Indian hotels and function centers, they were just these magic places with, you know, the massive ceilings. I don't know how high they were, but imagine, you know, going into Queen Victoria building and they're just massive. And he would stack things on top of each other, and eventually he would have like 3 champagne bottles and a 4-legged chair balancing on 3 up the top, and he would do a handstand and his feet would touch the ceiling. And he taught himself all of this, and he literally taught himself upper body strength by doing push-ups on the back concrete step. And then he worked himself up and up and up and up and up. So he never paid for anything. One of his uncles in the past was actually a bodybuilder, and he had a book that his dad had that he practiced with, just like body exercises. So a bit like yoga. Anyway, getting back to the story, I was writing and I was collecting all these things that I've learned through courses, through work experience, and through my grandfather and my life growing up. And that was it. It just came down. The Magician's Daughter is now my business name, registered, website, everything. And I've just sent you, Katie, also my website words, and essentially what I'm providing is myself as a woman, a women's embodiment guide. So everything to do with body movement, you know, enjoying the process of aging, just the magic in life, having fun, remembering who we are, so we can have an enchanted life. So it's got that coaching spin, but it's a little bit left of field as well. And it kind of encompasses all of the things that I love, including my artistic pursuit, which is visual storytelling. So, yeah.
So good. I've got full like shivers. It's just amazing. It's just
really lovely. Really, I feel it's really powerfully come through for me at the right time.
Yeah.
And the words are coming and things are starting to flow because of that lesson of being truly aligned to what it is that I love, and, you know, what you know and what you're here to offer, rather than trying to create something else. So
I think also, sorry to interrupt, Anita, but I feel like also you're a really, really good example, and this happens to a lot of us in business. It happens to me too, of someone who needed a ruminating period before really getting the download. Like, you came in with quite a lot of ideas, and then from an outside perspective, it could almost look like you lost momentum for a bit. And I think you even could have felt like you lost momentum for a bit, but actually
I got lost.
It was that rumination. It was the brewing phase. You know, like Kim knows about this. It's the fermentation time. And that's when the magic happens. And then you're open, the channel is open, and it feels like it came out of nowhere, but it didn't come out of nowhere. It came out of the fermentation time.
Yeah, absolutely.
I really saw that process in you.
Yeah, it was beautiful. You're absolutely right. And so the very first conversation I had with you, Katie, before the program started, and then now it's like in between that was a big muddled waters and kind of pulling things from the past and, you know, aligning myself to what is happening now. And then I had the fear. I had massive fears, and I ended up over scheduling myself with, you know, this job here and that job there, and 3 different things going on at once, and doing jobs I wasn't getting paid for, and I had all that to work through as well. So again, my second point that I wanted to discuss comes as part of the learning, but the most important next steps, and that is valuing myself as I am with all the wealth of experience that I already have and the knowledge that I already have, because it is useful, and being paid for that, rather than thinking, because when you and I first had our conversation before the course started, we decided that I probably was a Peter like yourself, and every shiny object that comes or any course that comes, I think I need it. And I don't actually. I don't need to be distracted by doing more courses or further validating myself as qualified. And I just actually, while listening to you today, had this another kind of download realization that I have had, you know, more than 20 years in the corporate world mentoring and leading people. Those people are now, you know, directors at Microsoft, and there's a couple of them now at Microsoft and doing really, really well in their life and their chosen path. And I'm so glad that I was able to share that, but it's not where I want to be, but without dismissing the value in that. But I don't need to go and do a coaching course to do the same thing again in a different form. Yeah. So thank you, Katie, for helping me to come to all of that. But that is my learning, and my most important thing is remembering that I am worthy to offer a service and receive a price as I am.
Yeah, beautiful.
Go out there and get it.
Yeah. And the silver lining was that the magiciansdaughter.com.au was available.
It was available, yes.
So good. I love it.
Good, so good. I just have a quick question regarding the course content as well. And I think you might have already said this, but I can't remember the exact word for it. You know, when it's like accessible all the time, green something.
Evergreen, yeah.
Evergreen. Is it evergreen, the content?
Yes, yes. So
Yeah.
the landing page that has all of the recordings from our group session, I won't take that down, so you can access that whenever. And also the portal that you log into, you'll have lifetime access to that as well. And I'll probably be adding more things to that as time goes on, so you'll get all the updates.
That's really generous, because you've got that. It's generous, but I'm just saying that quietly. It's worthwhile for you too. But in addition to that, $50 per month, we've already got all of this still.
Yes.
Plus you're adding more.
You know, the $50 a month, what you're really paying for with that isn't so much content, although you will get some content. What you're really paying for is accountability and community. That's
Absolutely.
what it is. But I can't tell you how important that is. Like, it's just so, yeah, in my own work, like for myself as a business owner, but also I've seen it with the groups. Like, it just is so important.
And also,
so, yeah,
from a future collaboration perspective, there's a lot of us in this group too that may be local to each other, where we can actually offer each other services and work together. Yeah, so that's a really beautiful thing, and community, like creating the community, I think, that it continues.
Yeah. Thank you, Anita.
Thank you.
So exciting. Who's next? It's also okay, I will just say this, because both Kylie and Anita are both so full of like good news and excitement, which is wonderful. But if there are struggles or areas that you're still working through, that's okay too. This whole session doesn't have to be all super positive. So, you know, I'm here for all of it. It doesn't all have to be super glowy. Who'd like to jump in next? Peter.
Hello, everybody. Anita, that was amazing. That was so amazing. Thank you so much for sharing that. And I just went to check to the Magician's Daughter on Instagram. I don't think have you changed your name yet? You have. Okay. I'll have to
share it in the WhatsApp group. I've actually
amazing.
all I've done is put to sleep Rock the Mat, and I've just grabbed the name off Instagram, but I haven't actually done anything with it yet. But I will share it with you. Yep, thanks.
Amazing. Congratulations. I love that story so much.
Thank you.
Gave me all the warm and fuzzies. What I'm learning, my goodness, I'm tired. I'm really tired. I'm learning balance of life, business, and it's their first week back at school for Queensland. So I'm learning about prioritizing and what's important right now, what can wait, because I've just started, and I'm so excited to just hook in and just do all the things. That is my personality. I want to do it all, but I end up in burnout, and I can't do it all. So I'm really learning about balance and prioritizing right now. What are my most important next steps?
You did actually, I mean, give yourself credit, because you were about to bite off, I think, probably more than you could chew just before Christmas. And you pulled yourself back from that. So you realized you were like, okay, I'm just about to take on way too much and just, completely overwhelm myself. But you caught it in perfect time and adjusted, so that's brilliant.
Yes, absolutely, Katie. And always looking at the bigger picture. And it was just so nice to have some real conversations and really ground myself and come back into like prioritizing and small steps. I'm a really big step taker and forget the small steps. So yeah, it's just I'm all about like the building foundations at the moment. And building foundations, I shared that this week. For the first time in my life, saved money. I've never been able to save money. I've had a lot of issues with money, and for the first time ever, I've been able to save money. And I paid a Edwina on Friday to help me with my website, and to thank you, a little tears slot. To get that started, get it started next week, and I'd really like to, over the next sort of 3 months, just nut out my services and what I want to offer, and complete my studies. And I feel like life is just going to get better and better and better with my small steps.
Beautiful. Love it so much. Thank you.
Thank
and
you.
From my perspective, and I'm sure lots of other people in the group too, it feels like you've really hit the ground running with your business. Like, I've seen a lot of progress. I've seen a lot of not just stuff on social media in terms of posting, but like that you're doing lots of things. So it feels like it's like happening.
It's been, I wasn't really sure what to expect when I started teaching. But I've been doing it I've been teaching for 3 weeks, and I can feel movement, and there's a lot of people reaching out. There's a lot of chatter in the community. And I had a friend come up to me, and she had come to my class on Friday, and she said, I have been in pain in my hip all week. And she said, I got up from your class and I had no pain. And I was like, I was so happy. This is amazing. This is, like being so new. I have no idea. I do, because of what it's done for me, but just, it feels so nice to be helping other people. So it's really, I love it.
Beautiful. Thank you. Who's next? Jump on in.
I'm happy to go next.
Thank you.
Hello. I'm actually gonna cry because I've learned my value, and this is a big thing. because even if before I knew that I was doing a good job, I never stand for myself. And with all the work we've done with pricing, with being unique, all of this kind of thing have been so helpful in the past few weeks. And, you know, even this morning, I saw that someone was doing the same, like not the same, but was starting to do the same type of workshop I've been doing for a year. And, you know, at first I was like, oh, but then I'm like, it's different because it's a different person. And before that, like a month ago, I would not feel like this. I would always be scared, and we worked on fear and on price. And as we discussed this week, like being able to say like, well, that's the price because that's what I can give. That's what I bring. And I'm not scared anymore of putting my price up. I'm going to have my price very visible as well on my website. And I have no shame. Like it's a weird word, but yeah, before I was almost like, when people was asking about like something, I was like, oh, I'm not sure, because I was always fearing that, oh, will they think that it's too expensive versus what it is? But I know that it's not, from the feedback I get from the work we've done. So yeah, sorry, I got a bit emotional because when I saw the question, I was like, what did I learn? And then I realized that that was the word that came. And yeah, it feels a bit intense to say, but yeah, I've learned really my value and honoring what I'm offering. And so the next step are really to keep going with this and not losing the momentum and not just getting things done. And I think it's really, again, also about prioritizing, and the plan for me is really to have things written down. I need some discipline around when to do and what, because otherwise life gets a bit too busy with the expectation, you know, like with kids, there is always something going on. So I need to have this to, like, the one thing I've been really struggling since I've started my business is the accountability. Because before, in my job, you know, I knew that this project was due by this date and I would do it. With my own business, sometimes I found that a bit difficult, because it's kind of like, oh yeah, I can push back and it will happen when it happens. But I think I need to find ways of making myself accountable and having some clear view on not trying to do too much as well, but to do things that are realistically achievable. And so like that, I won't have to put like this on the back burner saying like, oh, I haven't done it. But yeah, I really want to work with this discipline, but not as well being in an overwhelmed kind of discipline. So that's going to be my next step. And yeah, I think it's been amazing to be able to reflect on this, and just having these calls and the regularity of talking to each other. And I feel that it gives that kind of accountability, but also being part of a group and the community. Because I feel that sometimes being a yoga teacher is a bit lonely, because you know, like you have people in the same world or the same type of business or industry, but you don't always talk as much, and everyone is busy. And so, and that's what you were saying earlier with social media. When I have like flat days, I'm like, I still need to show up, and I feel that I can't just, you know, like if I have someone that I know be, how are you doing? I can't really write all of this, like, it's been a bit too much recently. But so I feel that, you know, having people that can understand and that can feel and go through the same kind of things, and knowing as well that it's all normal, the up and down, and it's not just, you know, I feel that there is lots of things as well sometimes on social media when we see like all the wins, and we think, wow, everyone is killing it, or everyone is, you know, the small business thing is the hardest thing ever. Like it's yeah, I feel that sometimes, you know, I would talk to people, and, you know, I was talking to a friend the other day, and she was like, oh, I'm very tired at the moment. There is so many things, like maybe I should become a yoga teacher. And be like, I didn't, I wasn't offended. I didn't say anything, but I was like, man, when I was a consultant, I was working hard, but there is this additional element of, that's my baby. That's, you know, like, I'm not gonna like not do it. And it's 24/7, you know? So it's like, people don't really realize that. So having this container and people that who are able to understand this, it's great. So yeah, I want to continue like keeping in touch and finding the community, and yeah, that's going to be essential, I think.
Beautiful.
Yeah,
I love it.
thank
you. And the accountability thing, it's often harder for people who've come from an employed situation, especially corporate background, because you're so used to having markers for accountability that you just have to meet. And then when you're self-employed, it does feel much more fluid. But you know, for me, I just make goals for myself. I mean, I've shared this with you guys before, and I just do the very best I can to stick to them. And, you know, Marion and I spoke about this before, but just to share with everyone else, a great way of creating accountability for yourself, if that's something you're struggling with, is make an announcement to your community that you're going to do a certain thing by a certain time. Like if you say, I'm going to launch this course on this date, or, you know, the door's open for this on XYZ, then you have to show up and make it happen. So that sort of creates a bit of backwards accountability, which can be really helpful. Yeah. Thank you. Lovely.
Yeah, so I'm going to announce like this week. I've started working on things. So I'm like, yes, I'm going to announce it. So yes, thank you.
Yeah, deadline, like self-created deadlines. They do, you have to, because otherwise time just disappears. Yeah. Thank you. Anya.
Hi, Katie. Hi, everybody. Hello. I wrote a few points down, as in the what I've learned and my next steps. So one of the things I've learned through this kind of container is the need for me to just cut out a lot of chat and clutter, and just get really concise with things. So on that, time blocking and scheduling was one big area that I've learned a lot about. And it makes me feel like I'm achieving something, even if it's like an ongoing task that doesn't really have a conclusion that day. You know, if I've scheduled time, given time to that, I don't feel like I'm failing. I feel like I've kind of worked with what I've got, and, you know, the next time will be a different outcome, or, you know, it will evolve. And that was something quite important for me. The other thing was, I don't have to do it all at once and give everything all at once, where I was trying to like make everything look beautiful, or make a whole course and put all this stuff in, and nothing was getting done because I was just trying to like cover every base. So that was another thing. The other thing was putting myself into a relationship with my business in my head. So actually looking at it as, you know, it's not me, it's how I'm serving my business, like what my business needs, rather than what I need or what I think it might need. And also looking at my ideal avatar and speaking to them, rather than speaking to just myself. So especially around wording.
Yeah, it's a really big step when you, and this happened quite late in the piece for me, I've got to say, in my business personally, when you see yourself and your business as two separate entities. Like, I think that's a really big and important phase in the development of having a successful business, where you go, the business is its own entity, it's its own thing, and it might be a personal brand, which means it's around you as a person, but they're still two completely separate things. You know, the personal brand of me and my business is not the same as me at home in my family life, or, you know, in other areas of my world and my life. Like they're two completely different things. And I think, yeah, it's really helpful to make that distinction. I agree.
Yeah. And I mean, I've got a few other points, but one of the main points, and Katie, you highlighted this in our one-on-one, and I know myself, I am an ideas person. I just keep running with the ideas, and I have all these ideas, and they, whilst they're good in business, they're also my own worst enemy, because I'm just getting nothing done. I just got one idea here all over the place. So what I did was decide to put my creative ideas, because I was trying to channel all this into my business, and put them in like a personal section. So I decided to, and I had already kind of had this in process, but I started to start a book club. And I just put it out to a whole load of people on Facebook in a group that's completely unassociated with what I'm doing with yoga and stuff. And we had our first book club on Friday night. And there's about 15 people, which is a lot for a book club, but they didn't all turn up, and I knew they wouldn't all turn up at once. But it's teaching me how to talk to people, and it's given me, as much as I am, like it's a fun thing for me to do, because I love that kind of creativity with books and that community. Like a lot of people saying, being a yoga teacher, you can be, it can be quite lonely. Because you just you're operating on yourself, maybe working from home. The people you talk to are your clients, and then people who you're not talking, you do talk to, that aren't in yoga, have no idea what you're talking about. So it was really lovely to get these people together. And also in doing that, although I'm hosting it, I can see different types of personalities. And it's almost like I came away thinking, at first it was just like, it's going to be so much fun, but it's also going to be a little bit of work for me, because I've got to organize it all. But I'm going to get them to help me with it. But also realizing people's personalities can be quite dominant, and they can try and knock your ideas, but valuing yourself as an individual and knowing your worth, you don't necessarily always have to voice your worth to know it. And it's actually, I think it's actually going to be really good for me from the business perspective, although I'm not really trying to do it for business. So that was one. And then the other massive thing for me was to embody a lot of the information that you've given us, that I have read in our chats, and the way I'm quite a practical person, a physical person. And so probably coming away and doing some meditation, journaling around a lot of that stuff to, like you say, sort of let it simmer, so that what I might have previously thought was overwhelm, change my mindset around that and use it as, like you've said, the ruminating period of just like, sitting in it. So it's not, although it might feel like overwhelm on one hand, if I change my mind about how I think about it, it becomes more positive, rather than spiraling down into like, oh my God, I can't do anything. And then I end up doing nothing. So, that's, there's loads of other things as well, but that's probably the main things.
Beautiful. I love it.
Thank you.
Thank you. So good. Thank you.
Thank you.
It's such an interesting thing, isn't it? I had the experience just in this last week of, like, I had a couple of days where I felt really overwhelmed. I had so much stuff on, and my to-do list was just like blowing up, and all these different things were happening. And I really did feel like, okay, I'm just at capacity. I'm overwhelmed. And then I decided to have a day off where I just kind of hung out with the kids and did a few things that weren't, like, just didn't work at all, no work related stuff. And then when I came back the next day after that, and I looked at my list and I looked at all the things that I'd been so overwhelmed about, I still felt a little bit overwhelmed, but I felt so much less overwhelmed, and nothing had actually changed. Like, the lists were the same and all the stuff was the same, but I just felt so different from having had a break. And it reminded me again that so much of it is just our headspace, and we go through these ups and downs and phases, and sometimes all we need is a little break, and then we come back and say, you know what, I'm okay. I just need to do the next step, the next thing. Yeah, thanks for sharing.
Thank you.
Sarah.
I have to take my earphones out because the microphone doesn't work with them in. I resonate so much with what everyone's saying. I think there's definitely such a big thread weaving between us all. I can feel it. It's really lovely. I also made some notes earlier, but the big thing that's coming through for me that I've learned, I think when I started this group, I was aware that mindset was a big thing for me. I really needed to shift. I could see that I needed to shift. And then the energy just kind of barreled through and worked with me in some respects. This is on reflection now. And I had some big energy shifts at the start, and then working one-on-one with you, Katie, and everything that I've been doing, it's meeting my edge and moving through that in new ways is really what's coming through as a big learning for me, to really shift that mindset around the overwhelm. And what you said earlier, Katie, about being the biggest gift you can give yourself is to just keep focusing on your business. I wrote earlier before everyone started speaking was like, I'm learning to recognize what my needs are and prioritizing those so I can keep working on my business, and which I think is a theme we're all feeling from what I've heard, and that valuing myself and really just owning that my business is my work, my being a mum is my work, my working for my clients is my work, and all of that. And really just, I guess that connects in with self-worth too, and valuing that, hey, all of this is big, it's important, and it's my world. And I haven't been valuing that for so long. I think I've just let the overwhelm of being a mother, and then the overwhelm of money and finances and business. And what came through at the start of this program was I just don't think I've been taking myself seriously for a few years. And that's really sad. And I've got a lot of emotion around that coming through as well. And so I'm learning to really determine what I do next has a lot to do with what my needs are. And even in the last couple of days, I've given myself permission, what you just spoke to, Katie, about giving myself space. I've given myself permission to just go, you know what, fuck it, excuse the language. I'm just turning off from my business for this day. I have to. And sure enough, like the whole container of my world is full with a million other things, but choosing to give myself permission to go, no, not looking at that. And I think it was about 36 hours. I didn't think, I didn't look, I didn't, any of it. And yeah, sure enough, that gave me space and emotion came through. And then I was just focusing on the other areas of my life. And then I've come back to it and just gone, yeah, it's all still there, but it's fresher and I feel lighter. So, and when I do create that space for myself too, sort of opportunities and conversations then happen that, as you were speaking to earlier, Katie, about the magic, the magic is when you are sort of what in your head feels like you're losing momentum and focus, yet you're just marinating in the energy of all the work that's been done. And I think I've done more work on my business in this past few weeks than I have in the last 18 months. And so it feels like I've still got a lot and I can see a lot more to do, but I'm not feeling overwhelmed because I'm just focusing and doing it in little bits now. And so I guess mindset's been a massive shift for me, and boundaries, just energetic boundaries around my family and communicating those. I guess it sort of came through this morning, just communicating in a very clear, concise, I've got no space for emotional turbulence right now. This is what I'm choosing. This is what I want to give my energy to. And then communicating that in a way of, I need this and I need this from you. And I feel the energy is like just rising in that to hold me a bit more steady to keep going. So yeah.
Beautiful.
I think I've touched on everything.
Thank you, Sarah. You know, I just on this boundaries thing, especially for those of you who are with parents, I think one of the biggest learnings I have around parenting and managing business as well is that both require really clear boundaries. And I think as a mum, and especially if you want to be a good mum, I mean, everyone wants to be a good mum, but you know, if you're like really attempting to be a conscious parent, we have this narrative often that means being always available and unconditionally available, and this whole thing of like, I always prioritize my kids. Like, I can tell you right now, I don't always prioritize my kids. Like, I prioritize them if they have high needs. Like, if one of my kids was sick or needed my support, or it was an emergency, or you know, they were very emotional, of course, yes. But in every moment, I don't prioritize my kids' needs over things and not just over my own needs, but also just over things I need to get done, you know, or a boundary I've decided to create. Like, I mean, I'll just give you a small example. In my family with my teenagers, when I had the baby, I basically made a rule, my partner and I made a rule together, that we're not doing any lifts for anyone after 7 p.m. Like, that's the rule, because the baby goes to bed and then the evening we're at home, you know, there'll be food, you can have friends over, you can do what you want, but we're not doing the chauffeuring taxi service thing. Like, you have to figure it out. And my elder one is old enough that he's allowed to do public transport and stuff, but I've got one teen who I don't let be out and about on public transport. So he's had to get really good at organizing lifts if he wants to go and do sports or things with friends or whatever. And in the beginning, I felt pretty bad about it. I was like, oh, you know, I should be more available. I should be, you know, facilitating his desire to go out and do things and rugby and what have you. But you know what? He's problem solved it, and we've problem solved it together. Like, of course, I've helped him with that. And then there've been so many times where he's been like, oh, Mum, I'm late. Can you just quickly drive me? Or, you know, the bus is going to take half an hour extra. Can you just quickly? And I'm like, no, I can't just quickly. And sometimes I actually haven't got anything else I need to be doing. I could easily just say yes, but I've just decided to have a boundary around that. And I think it's been so good for my children to see that I'm not unconditionally available all the time. It's very much a product of our generation. And I think it's because, this is a little bit of a tangent, so I won't hop on, but I know this was the case for me growing up. I'm sure, you know, many of you are around the same age as me. When we were young, we were the last generation of, like, I'm 45 now, of the children should be seen and not heard type vibration, you know, of like, it's actually, our parents were quite like, you're a kid, don't get a choice, you know, you do what we say kind of vibe. And then we grew up in the world of personal development, spirituality, the whole new age movement. And so now many of us as parents are, and of course this is a generalization, but I see it a lot and I've seen it in myself, we overcompensate, where our kids get so much autonomy and so many choices, and we're running around after them. And actually, it's not the right way. It's like the pendulum swings one way and it swings all the way over the other way. And it's okay. It's okay to say to your kids, no, I can't, because I'm, or not even because I'm, just no, I can't. It's just okay sometimes to not be always available and unconditionally available. And yeah. So I just want to put that out there. It's been something I've really put a lot of energy into in my family, and I've actually seen it be really healthy for my children. I've seen it really help them to thrive and to see me as a whole human. And often now they'll say to me, can you do XYZ, or are you working, or are you busy? Or, you know, they don't have an assumption that I'm always going to be available. And part of that's because I've got a lot of children. But they also know that I'm here for them if they need me, you know, like if they need me to drop everything, I totally will. So yeah, I just wanted to share that with you, Sarah, and for anyone else who's a parent, because I don't buy into this narrative that we've seemed to have created for ourselves, that in order to be a good mum, we have to be unconditionally available all the time and our kids have to always be a priority. I've stopped saying that. I used to say my kids are my priority. I don't say it anymore. They are my priority sometimes, but they're not always my priority in every moment. If I know they're basically okay, sometimes I might have other priorities in that moment. And you totally don't have to agree with me on that. You can have a completely different perspective and I'm fine with that. But I just wanted to share that.
You've really hit the nail on the head for me as what's been holding me back in my business. I've literally allowed and given my children permission to stop me from growing, and I felt the energy the last sort of 8 to 12 months. Something just rising, going, something has to give, something has to change. And I've been dancing between, is it my relationship? Is it my children? Do I need to get a job? Do I need to grow my business? And it's just been this constant, like, and the energy's just become so big, which I believe is when you walked into my life, Katie, you know, through choices I made. And that's, yeah, I'm feeling really empowered in new ways to say to my daughters, no, I'm working, and you're, it's not that you're not important. You're not important right now. This is important. And also even just sharing that language with them. And then I've noticed even practicing that, which sounds ridiculous to have to practice it, but I did choose literally the conscious parenting path. Like, they are the words that came through when I was pregnant, and books I read and mentors. And then, so that's what I've always used and gone back to. And I have that overcompensating the way I was brought up, not having anyone around, and purely because my parents worked full time, and a hell of a lot of other stuff that's come through in my healing journey. But it even came up in conversation this morning, you know, just speaking with a neighbor about, yeah, I'm always here. Hey, if you need a help, need a hand. And then I've heard myself, well, what am I doing? Why am I just so frivolously offering to a neighbor that I barely see? Hey, I'm here if you need a hand. And then I caught that and went, and that's what I'm doing to my children all the time. I'm here. I've chosen to be a stay-at-home parent and work from home, and I've done it successfully for 8 years. I might not be earning much money right now, but it's really just getting those boundaries clear and listening to that call inside, because that's, I guess they say things happen in 7 years. I don't know a lot about around those superstitions and whatnot, but yeah, my daughter's turned 9 this year, and I feel like I've just been marinating in this energy and could have leapt forward a year ago, but I didn't, you know. So thank you, Katie, and thank you everyone in this space. And I will be joining the membership because, yeah, the accountability, and just I find this group like no other. It's just I find the energy so grounding and just authentic as well. So thank you.
Yeah. Thank you, Sarah. Just one other thing. I really don't want to go down the parenting rabbit hole, but I do just want to add this one last thing, because Peter also just wrote in the chat that her kids are flourishing through a similar process of boundaries. What it allows to happen is other adults to also be an important influence in our children's lives, instead of mum is everything. And that's so healthy. Like, when my son had to start thinking about, oh, maybe my friend could give me a lift, or maybe I could, you know, like strategizing a little bit about how he could organize his life with my help, he actually called in community, is what happened. And it's so beautiful to witness that, and then to be able to pay it forward, of course, and be part of community and give back as well. But for our kids to see themselves in a context of community, rather than just my mum does everything for me all the time at my beck and call, you know, it's such a beautiful thing. It really is. So yeah, thank you. Thanks for bringing that up. I think it's a very important conversation for those of us who are doing the parenting juggle, which is a lot of people who are running businesses from home, because we want to be available for our kids, and we also want to, you know, do our work in the world. And so this is a great solution with the right boundaries in place. Beautiful. Who wants to jump in next? Kim.
I'll jump in, and I'll also will be crying. Yeah, it has been, first of all, really inspiring and very touching to hear everyone who has spoken so far. And I really feel like we don't give ourselves enough credit for just seeing from where we have come from and where we are now. And it's just really beautiful to hear where everyone has like found their way in, like one way or the other way, into how to do their business. And that's just that touched me a lot. Yeah, I just wanted to say that first. And I can relate to like lots of elements of everyone's story. I personally have been feeling so unstable in my life at the moment. And I think the biggest lesson for me is trusting myself. And I guess with the help of this container and getting a bit more clarity and learning also how to ask for help, but then not relying on that channel that I can like, do it myself as well, has been really big for me. And I still feel like very quite overwhelmed because I don't quite know how things are going to look like yet. And every time I like make little progresses, there are like, say if I make 1 or 2 steps forward, I feel like there's like 10 steps to go backwards because I'm hitting another like building block that I have to figure out. Like that's kind of where my business is at the moment. And therefore I feel like I'm behind with everything. With the website, everything takes so much longer than I was expecting, I guess. And I have also lots of ideas and I just want to move forward, but like it's for me hard to find a foundation at the moment. Not only in the business, but just in my own life as well. There's like lots of things that are unstable or unsure, and it's all in my foundational parts of my life, like my house and my car, and like all of those little things. But to be learning to trust myself and also like finding a balance between work and life is slowly coming in for me now, I find. Because it's for me often all or nothing. So I have been like really throwing myself at like, oh, I'm building this or like do it for hours and then I just can't do it anymore. So I'm kind of trying to catch myself when that happens so I don't get in this state. As I'm also working like in hospitality for like 30 hours a week, which is good where I can distribute my kombucha, but it is also asking a hell lot of my mental capacity and energy, like my energy, and physically my body doesn't feel very good at the moment. So I'm like, it's kind of where it's a vicious circle, like where can I make space for myself that I can let go of something so I can make space for what I actually feel aligned with. That's what I find really beautiful from Anita's story, like really finding that true alignment in what you want to do. And I think even though the kombucha gives me lots of passion, I'm still finding my way in that back to where I feel aligned in what I want to do, what I want to offer in the world, who I want to be. Like there's just so much happening, and I feel like there is like so much things that I'm learning, but I'm also still like unpacking the lessons and receiving back from those lessons. I hope that kind of makes sense. Yeah, and I guess like trying to do one step at a time, which I find very difficult, and I find it also difficult to break these little things down. Yeah, so I guess like that's what I'm trying to like just continue doing with the website, like okay, little steps at a time. It doesn't have to be perfect, and everyone around me is like, oh, when can we get more kombucha? And I'm like, yeah, that's amazing, but it makes me also feel very overwhelming because I feel like if nothing is set up fully yet. So yeah, it's just trying not to be as scattered as much and trying to like stay focused on that one thing before I'm gonna like get overwhelmed by taking too much on again, because life is just happening, and I guess we all have those phases and those moments that were like, I don't like, you want to do it one step at a time and the universe gives you all the fucking steps at once. In like not a really easy way and not in a clear way, and I'm like, Yeah, that's where I'm at right now. And there are like some little moments that were like very beautiful and light, and that the universe actually was like, okay, like this is where your alignment is. I can find little snippets. It's just how can I hold those snippets to expand the light, to I guess kind of dissolve the blockages, and especially the fear in the, I guess, the shadow work and the work within myself, to allow myself to be seen. That has been a really big theme for me, because having a website, having the kombucha being exposed at the cafe, 2 cafes actually, that makes you feel how do you say, like, it makes you very, very visible. And I've always been hiding really easily, even though people are like, oh, you're so confident, and I'm like, I'm actually not. That's just how you guys perceive me. But on the inside, that's not just coming so naturally as everyone thinks. So I feel like that's something that is a bit of self-sabotage coming in sometimes, by wanting it to be so perfect, because it is going to be super visible. So I'm trying to let that go a little bit, so I can just get it started and like allow it along the way to then improve. Yeah, it's a massive learning curve, and I feel like I sometimes really tap out just to maintain my own nervous system.
Which is, you know, the thing is that that's actually completely the perfect thing to do. You know, sometimes you do just need to take a break and care for yourself and take the time. So I think it's really important for all of us that there isn't guilt associated with that. Like, oh, I'm, you know, not doing the things I should be doing, but rather actually that you're doing exactly what you should be doing to care for yourself. I mean, I can say from an outside perspective, and I'm sure other people in the group would feel the same, that I've seen a huge progress in your business. Like, you've really done so much. And I think you're very hard on yourself, Kim, like, because you went from not really knowing at all what your focus was to deciding the focus is on the kombucha, which is beautiful and it's the perfect alignment. And then all of that's come together really well because you've had a lot of support from your boss, which is fantastic. So you've got this perfect supply chain situation. Then you decided, okay, I'm not going to do the full website, which was a good decision. I'm just going to do a simple social media milkshake. But then it was like, okay, now I'm going to do the website. Again, good decision. But all of these things are really big stepping stones. Like, again, very similar to some of the others in the group, you're creating a big foundation right now, and it is overwhelming. It's a lot, but you've done a lot. Exactly, Sarah. Huge milestones. You just have to pause and acknowledge how freaking much you've done. A lot. And if you're feeling a bit tired and a bit overwhelmed, that's completely normal. And it's exactly what I just spoke about before. When you're doing all the hard work and setting up all the foundations and not yet making a lot of money from it, that's the worst moment in the business, right? That's the hardest time, when you just keep plowing in time and money, plowing in, showing up. And at some point you just go, oh my God, it would be so much easier to just go and get a job. You know, my friend Sarah and I always joke, Sarah McGann, the energy healer, we talk about business all the time. And we're always joking about, oh, you know, it was I just want to go and get a job week, meaning the fantasy of just not being self-employed anymore. And like, wouldn't it just be so great to just have a wage and not be responsible for anything? But also knowing that that entrepreneurial spirit is so strong, and that it's not, I would hate to have a job. It would be my worst nightmare, actually. But the fantasy is always there, you know? And so I get it. I totally get it, that you're in that tipping point of you've put so much in. But I think what I really want to say to you is, I think it's about to start to get more easeful. You've just been working really, really hard on your business. And like you said, you're working a full-time job too. So I think you'll find, honestly, that things are about to start getting easeful. And the thing that's amazing for you, Kim, and this is not a small thing, is you've got a captive audience. You're not going to now have to do a massive marketing campaign and go and find customers. You've got customers like literally begging you for your products. So You know, it's all this work is not going to go to waste. It's not going to be like you put all this time and energy in and then, oh my goodness, does anyone want it? You know, people want it. So keep going, but rest up and give yourself a break and take some time to acknowledge exactly what Sarah said. Huge milestones. Take some time to acknowledge that you've hit some huge milestones. You're doing really well.
Yeah, well, thank you so much. And it's interesting to hear that from an outside perspective, because how stupid it may sound, like I can't see that because it's, for me, it has never really been good enough. So I really
You're very
appreciate
hard on yourself. You're very hard on yourself. And I say that with love, and I say it because it will serve you in your life if you can work on just being kinder to yourself.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's really nice to hear the reflection back in that way. And I had this week a moment where I was like, I'm gonna throw out, like, literally, I'm done with yoga, I'm done with the kombucha, I'm done with the Reiki, I'm done with everything. I'm just gonna stay with the cafe. And then I was like teaching a class again, and I was like I got like so much confirmation from my students, like how a substitute teacher was like, yeah, no, she was not you. And not that I'm better than anyone else, but like the response from after class was just like, oh my God, this is exactly what I need. And like also like someone who had like so much pain, like, oh, my pain is like, it has become like so much better now. And with the kombucha, like the next day at work, it was like, oh, so when is it ready? Like, I was like, well, in like a week or so. And then I'm like, yeah, what am I doing? Why am I wanting to like throw out the things that I like love the most and that actually are good for me as well as for others? Why do I want to sacrifice all of that for a job that I know that keeps me in that cycle? So that's like a really big other realization, I think, that came through in that sense, where the self-sabotage comes in, where I'm like, what am I actually wanting to choose for, and what is it worth, like, going through all of this? I guess the expansion of the growth, where that's like that sticky part, to like till the very end of the tunnel to walk through, and then being able to let go of it, of the things that don't serve me, so I can actually fully do what I really love doing. But yeah, it's been a lot, and I'm very, very tired.
Yeah. So resting, pausing, acknowledging how far you've come. Is there anything we can do as a group to support you? What kind of support do you need? Is there anything we can help you with?
I'm not sure in this moment. I might need to sit with that, if that's okay.
Of course, if there's support we can offer, let us know, because I know that every other woman on this call would be very happy to be of support in any way that we can.
I find that really challenging, because I feel like it's a lot in my head, and trying to, I guess, let my brain figure it out how to navigate. I sometimes don't know what to ask for help for, because I don't understand what's actually happening for myself. Yeah. But
you're doing really well. That's what I really
I was not meant to cry this much.
Hopefully it's good crying, and you'll feel better. Like, you'll feel a cathartic, you'll feel better afterwards, I hope.
Yeah.
All right, my love. Thank you. Thank you. Kirsten, I know you joined us a little bit late. We're just reflecting on 2 questions. What have been some of your biggest learnings, and what are your next steps? Do you want to jump in?
Yeah, so I just unmuted myself. My biggest learnings, I think, is really still about myself, that I really struggle still getting myself out there. Like, I've done, like, when I know the steps I have to do, like, this is actually like kind of an easy thing. Like, I hide behind my computer and I do this and I figure this out and I figure that out and all the rest of it. But my thing, and that's because it was the school holidays. This is actually, now I'm getting really nervous, because tomorrow is the day where I have to oh, I didn't want to cry either. mm, yeah, where I kind of really,
It's okay to cry. Have a cry. It's all good.
and where I really have to get myself out there and actually approach potential customers. And it's even reflecting in my social media, like, although that wasn't the most important thing for me, like this could probably more be happening, but I just really struggle, like every time I have to put myself out on the plate, actually, like a bit like Kim said, making myself visible. It's like such a big thing, and like I know it doesn't, like in my head, like I know it doesn't matter, and I shouldn't be attached to any outcomes. Just put it out there. People are not going to go and say, "Oh, she's always writing this and that," kind of thing. But it's just such a big thing. I really struggle to get over and get things done. So I'm still interfering, like yeah, kind of a self-sabotage as well. Like instead of like really going for the goal, I'm finding other things that I can do that they seem, what did you guys call it? Like the busy work kind of thing. That seem also kind of important or could lead to something, but I don't have to. Yeah, I'm just it's still not getting myself out there. It's just something else. It's kind of for the business, but it's not actually taking the full next important step kind of thing.
You know, one of the things, I've said this before, but I'm just going to share it with everyone again and again and again, and with myself again and again and again. One of the things about being in business, being self-employed, being an entrepreneur, running your own business, is you just have to get good at being rejected. Like it's just comes with the territory, you know. It's not, I'm not going to sit here and tell you you're amazing, everyone's going to want your things, it's going to all be fantastic. It is going to be that. You are amazing, people will want your things, people will buy them, definitely, and people will say no. Like it's just going to happen that people say no. And it's such a big thing to just get over that. And I don't mean that in a light-hearted, like, you know, just get over it kind of way, but when that happens, when you really do get over that, that's when your business starts to become really enjoyable. Like I can honestly say for myself now, honestly, I don't give a fuck if people don't want the stuff I'm selling. But it's taken years. It's taken years and years and years to get to that point. And, you know, I write a book not knowing if it's going to get published. I have a creative idea not knowing if people are going to sign up for it. And also, and again, I've shared this with you guys, I do get rejected all the time. It's really not all a story of, you know, everything I do is, you know, touched with gold. Like there's loads of wins and loads of amazing opportunities and things happening, and there's lots of people that don't buy my things, don't like my things, publishers that didn't want my book, you know, like endless.
The weird thing though is no one even had said no to me yet. It's
yeah.
it's like, yeah, I don't know, it's obviously it's yes, probably the fear of maybe the no, or how it's more so because I'm also like very not at all what's the word, confident in myself, and I don't want to go out and like coming through kind of thing, because then I feel like things are probably gonna, and then I get in this head cycle where it's like, oh okay, like maybe I'm not ready for this. Maybe I just need to work on, you know, my self-development in that department and X, Y, and Z kind of thing. And it's like this stupid cycle that keeps coming back. But in saying that, yeah, I know that I'm moving forward still, because I think I've done a lot of things in my life, and it's not that I kind of given up on stuff, but it was never the right thing. And since I started my like yoga journey, like it was something, I said, okay, like I'm not going to give up. Maybe there's some you know, maybe it hasn't happened that time, but I'm just going to keep going or try different things. And yeah, so I have kept going, and I will keep going, and maybe, I don't know, you know, maybe it's going to be slower, then maybe it's not going to be this rocket thing that, I don't know. But yeah, I just, like, if it's one thing that kept me going, is that, yeah, that I just keep going in one way or another somehow.
You know, you're very brave. It takes a lot of courage to keep going when you're feeling like you are. And what I want to invite you to do, and this might sound really weird to other members of the group, but I really mean this hand on heart. I want you to go out and collect some rejections. That's what I want you to do. I want you to go out and just get a few no's. Because what you'll realize from that is it's not the worst thing in the world. It's not the end of your business. It says nothing about you as a person. It's just you made an offer to a school for kids yoga, and for whatever reason kids yoga isn't a fit for them and they don't want it right now, and you need to go make an offer to another school. That's all it means. And if you get yeses straight away, you'll still have the elephant in the room to deal with, of at some point there's going to be no's. And just getting over the no's is so helpful. I did this exercise. I'm struggling to remember what teacher it was. It was some coach or teacher. I can't remember who it was now, that got us to do this practice. This is a few years ago now, when I first started my online business, where we had to go for I don't want you to do this because this is really full on, but every day for a week, we had to collect 5 rejections. So you had to be rejected 5 times a day for a week, and you had to log them down. It was so powerful. Like, direct message people and ask them if they wanted to buy a particular thing, or apply to be a speaker, or, you know, it could be something really big, like, you know, pitching a book or pitching an event or something, or it could be something tiny, like trying to sell one thing to one person. But and then I think she even said, like, you could cheat. You could, like, ask your partner to, like, make you a cup of tea or something, and if they say no, then that counts as well, like, kind of thing. But it's really just about building up this resilience to being in something and not being hurt too much by the rejection. Now, I'm not saying it doesn't have an impact. Like, you know, there are certain times when there are things I really want to pull together, I really want to happen. Like, oh, you know, there's a couple of guests who I've really wanted to be in the Bhakti Women's Summit, and I've, like, literally been stalking them and kind of grooming them for years, and they've almost said yes a few times, and then I've nearly got it over the line and I haven't at the last minute. I'm so disappointed. And, you know, or I had a publisher lined up for my I want to create cards for Ayurveda Goddess, which Edwina and I've already designed them. I've been rejected by so many publishers, and then one publisher said yes, and then at the last minute pulled it and said no, they changed their mind because they didn't have budget. Like, I just care less and less because it happens all the time. And I'm running a really successful business that makes a lot of money. Like, I'm feeling really good about where my business is at, but it's like just not having that sense of it just like having a more playful approach, I think, is really helpful. Like, I'm going to play the game of putting myself out there and seeing what happens.
It's a little bit of a fine line also, like, not to get into that kind of stage where you think, okay, they're gonna like, if you go in there expecting a no, then that's not great either. Like,
100%, 100%. But you're not gonna, because you really do care and because you really do believe in what you're doing, you won't sabotage in that direction. It's just actually what you'll do is you'll trick yourself into being less anxious. Just try it. Just experiment with it. It might not work for you. It probably doesn't work for everyone. It was really helpful for me as an approach. Like, rather than, it's just a reframe on, I'm going to try and be so positive, and I'm going to go in and I'm going to expect the best, and you go girl, and I'm going to get the client, and I'm going to book, 10 people and whatever, which is, there's a place for that. I'm not saying there's never a place for that, but there's a lot of that in the online world, in programs, personal development world, coaching. It's also really helpful to just sometimes go, maybe I won't get the win, and it will be okay, and the world won't fall apart, and I'm still a good person, and I'm still doing good work in the world, and I'm still going to keep going. So, and it doesn't, I'm not saying that in any way to be negative, because I absolutely believe in your work and I know that you're going to do really well with it. Like, I 100% am behind you. But when we let ourselves get really, it's a contraction, that energy of fear around, are they going to say no? You know, and we can actually drop into an expansion of, it's okay if they say no. I'm not going to attach any meaning to it. That's the difference. The contraction is, oh, are they going to reject me? And the expansion is, it's okay. It doesn't make any difference. It doesn't impact who I am. I was having this exact conversation with my 16-year-old recently around dating, and him just saying that it's like his worst nightmare to ask a girl on a date. Like, it just feels so awkward and uncomfortable and like the worst thing ever. And I was like, well, what if you just practiced a few times with girls that you don't even want to date? Like, in a nice way. But like, don't start with the girl that you're like, I mean, I don't know, this isn't his story, but you know what I mean? Like the biggest, that's another good tip. Don't pitch your first pitch on the thing you really want. Gather a few rejections first and then pitch to the thing that you really want, because you'll have a thicker skin and also you'll be better at pitching as well. I hope it's helpful. I really hope, Kirsten, that what I'm saying doesn't come across in any way as dismissive, because I'm not being dismissive in any way. I absolutely feel how hard it is for you, and I get it and I relate to it. And what has been helpful for me around this energy has been to just go, you know what, I'm just going to care less. And it doesn't mean I don't.
It's not dismissive at all. Like, it aligns for me completely with, you know, not being too hung up on the outcome at all. Like, absolutely, like, definitely, like, yeah. So it's not dismissive at all. And I remind myself of that a lot when I'm in that moment, and think, okay, like, it's okay. It doesn't really matter. Yes, it doesn't affect me as a person.
Yeah, it's like really, really just a curious and playful approach. Yeah, and then Peter's saying, you know, the girls who created Canva, so many knockdowns. I mean, there's so many stories like this. Like J.K. Rowling, Harry Potter got rejected by 22 publishers. You know, like there's so many of these stories. Anita.
Katie, could I just share something? Just observing the emotion. And for some of you, you won't be able to relate because you haven't had a child yet. But what I'm seeing is all this beautiful, like, anticipation and creation, and this thing that's really personal and putting you in a vulnerable position, like a child. So you have this unconditional love and you really want it to work, but you know, and then you have the baby and you're exhausted because you've just, you know, you've been fermenting this thing for however many weeks, like we ferment a baby for 9-10 months, and then you spend all this time getting it out into the world, which is the stage that we're at, really, in terms of, you know, putting words to paper, and some people selling things now as, you know, offering things. And yeah, you're so raw, you're so tired, you're so vulnerable. It's normal. It's a normal part of the process physically, I think, for anyone to feel overwhelmed. And maybe it is just about, like you say, just take a sit back. And in one of my messages, I think the importance of fun is underrated. I think sometimes we need to just, you know, take off the shackles, leave it all behind, and let's just vacate for a day and just do something completely different. And someone else just posted surrender, just have fun, forget about it, just, and then come back recharged. It's like giving the baby to mum or someone else, dad or hubby or whoever, just let me sleep. And sometimes that's what we need, a nap, a good girls' night, or a dance or whatever, and come back to it. It's okay. And I remember the very first painting that I sold on commission, getting the job, I was terrified, and having to go into their home and take my portfolio and expose myself. And then actually producing the art was terrifying. And then actually letting them see it was like standing there naked. And this is much the same. It's, you know, it's your creation. It's so personal, and you love it so much, and you believe in it so much, and the thought of anyone else not is just, you know, potentially heartbreaking. But the only way for us to do it is to do it and then get better at it.
Beautiful. Thank you, Anita. And you know, in the really bigger picture, there's a Sanskrit word, swaha. It's one of my favorite words. I just wrote it in the chat. Swaha is let go and let God. It means, you know, I've tried my guts out. I'm very invested. I want this thing desperately. And I recognize that it's actually not all in my hands. Some of it's down to the universe. It's down to source. It's down to the goddess. Swaha. We don't have an English word for swaha, but it's such a helpful word in business. It's like, it doesn't mean you're not attached. It doesn't mean you don't care. Swaha is like, I really care. I am really invested. And actually, Anita's right. Parenting is the perfect analogy. We want our children to be healthy, happy, you know, yeah, like all the things. And at the same time, we know we can't control it. It's not up to us. And it's exactly the same with our businesses. And everything in life that's of any value that we've ever created, our partnerships, our relationships, our everything. We're not, this is the human condition. We are not actually in charge of everything, you know, and we can't create that. We can't make that happen. But what we can do is show up and do our work in the world and then surrender. So I love Anita's advice. I love the idea of pause, but I want to add to that another element, which is, don't let that mean you wait to put yourself out there, because all that does is delay the inevitable. And then it sits there in your nervous system waiting for you to, you know, like the fear of rejection just sits there like a sort of disease that is like festering. The beauty of collecting the rejections is that you dismantle the toxicity of the fear. The fear just dissolves because you've done the hardest thing that you're most scared of, and you didn't get the result you wanted, and everything is still okay. And you're still innately of value. You're still innately worthy, and your work is still good. I hope that's helpful.
Yeah, definitely helpful. There's a lot, yeah, reading a lot of the things on the side as well. It's definitely been very helpful. And yeah, I don't know, I did join that Victoria Washington 22-day RES initiation, and just this morning actually she said something around what you just said. I can't repeat it now, but very, very similar things. Very helpful. Yeah. Good. Just get yourself out there, get yourself rejected. We're all still here. We all still love you. Your work is amazing. And of course, within that, you'll get some wins too. You'll get some clients, like 100% you will. But actually, when we go after the wins, the energy of that becomes, yeah, it's like the swaha, the let it go, the it is what it is. It's all good, you know, the non-grasping. And then the abundance comes. It's such an interesting thing, the energy around that. Thank you, Kirsten. Kate and Freya, who would like to go first?
I don't mind. I'm happy to go.
Freya, thank you.
Oh, yeah, I mean, I feel like I've learned so much. Like when I look back and I think, gosh, it's just been just over a month, and it feels like 6 months worth of learning. But when I started, I really had no idea where to begin, really. Like I just knew I needed a guide or guidance, and I really feel like I've got that, and I've learned so much, just in terms of bringing my embodied dance offering and a more spiritual offering to the world. Yeah, and I really resonate and have experienced this idea that I'm sure it came from you, Katie, about, you know, business being sort of a spiritual practice as well, because I feel like everyone has said, and I feel so much resonance, is that it's been so beautiful and so exciting and so joyful and so creative, and also so testing in so many ways, like really testing, you know, my limits on on a practical level, on asking for support, on kind of, you know, enjoying all this momentum, and then at the same time having to have patience and kindness and understanding towards myself as well. So yeah, and it's interesting because I really I felt the energetic container of this community, and also of really putting my own intention and energy into something that I have chosen rather than been chosen for. So I mean, I do a lot of sort of consulting work, and I work on a few great projects that are, you know, things I'm brought in on, and to have set this intention and created this container and this kind of, so much devotion to something that I've chosen without knowing at all how it's going to go or be received, or, you know, whether there's a market, is just like, it feels like such an act of faith. And I'd say, like, when I reflect, that's probably been my biggest learning through the experience. And then there's been so many other practical things, like, I mean, the self-worth piece. I think the self-worth that is required, and kind of growing that capacity in moments of doubt and challenge and kind of obstacles, has been really big for me as well. But just the creative energy as well. Like, it's been so fun for me in so many ways to be creative in like a bunch of different ways. And then also, like, having the belief and the self-worth to bring in support where I need it, particularly around the visual aspect of things. So I mean, they're huge learnings and experiences, and I've actually found that my whole approach to life has kind of like been revitalized, you know, or revived or invigorated in some way. And so I feel like just so many learnings, and still, like, I still feel like I'm very much just preparing to bring something to the world. I'm struggling a bit with perfectionism. Like, my plan is, you know, my initial step is to kind of record this 20-25 minute dance experience and offer that as a free offering, and build an email list that way. And I've tried to record that so many times. And, you know, it's just, that's an interesting practice in itself. And I'm just, I still feel like I'm in the beginning, but like, looking back to, you know, when I signed up for this, as opposed to now, like, I have a lot of clarity about my next steps. And I'm also doing the Victoria Washington thing. And I think she said in the recent couple of days, you only need to see the next few steps. Like, and I feel like I have a lot of clarity and joy and excitement about that. And also, like, as you said, Katie, Swaha, like, also sort of letting go of expectation. And I think I'm lucky that, you know, I have sort of a few different ways that I'm supported and supporting myself. So I'm not all my eggs are in my embodied dance basket, but like, I'm putting a lot of, I guess, my energetic eggs into it, and I'm really enjoying that process. So they're just a few of my learnings. And I also wanted to say, I forgot to say at the beginning, but Kirsten, I've actually seen some of your Instagram stuff, and I actually really love it. I found it really refreshing. Those are kind of my learnings, and where I'm at and what I'm working on. And particularly, I think that perfectionism piece. And I think when I do put myself out more and become more visible, I will, that will be another test. I can really relate to the visibility thing, but like, challenging people. I'm just sort of, I guess I'm just focusing on my next steps every time, and also feeling like a lot of support from this community, and, you know, a lot of support has come where I've needed it. So I'm really grateful for that. Yeah, so
Thank
that's
you, Freya. Thank you. I love this idea of the things that we choose and the things that choose us. That's beautiful. I really like that reflection. Thank you. And I love your, yeah, I've definitely seen that journey towards clarity for you. So it's really beautiful to witness. Thank you. Kate, lucky last.
Hi everyone, it's lovely hearing everyone's stories, and hope you didn't mind me lounging around in the sun before, but the sun's going down now, so it's getting cold. So yeah, I had a really tough week because Katie, thanks for your support, because it was challenging. I had that childbirth education course that I was teaching yesterday. I taught it, and I had no people, but then suddenly I ended up getting four couples, so that's 8 people. So that was great, and they were all my doula clients. So I was kind of like preaching to the converted, but it was really beautiful. But what I didn't realize is I only left myself a whole week or a week to plan the course, and there was just so much work, and it was school holidays, and I was texting my children all over the place, and my husband decided to go away working, and so it was just one of the most full-on weeks. And plus I have to teach all my yoga classes, and it was full on. It was like the hardest thing that I have done in a while. It was like birthing a baby. And anyway, so Saturday, I pulled it off. I mean, I do, like, it was amazing. I do have a few of the patterns coming up which I struggled with for many years from yoga teaching. Like you do the class and then afterwards you're like, oh, I should have done this and I should have done that, and that they maybe didn't like that, and I got a bad vibe from this person, and all that stuff which I've managed to overcome from years of teaching yoga. And I just now walk out the door, or I guess you get confident in offering something that's people like, so I have a bit of that going on today. However, then I can recall some of the moments of the day where just these most amazing beautiful couples, just like lounging around in here and just holding hands and just like pure love, and just so like looking at me just like so eager to learn, and looking really excited and inspired. And so I haven't got the feedback yet, but I will. And so so I did that, and I recorded a few of the topics that I taught, and so I'll send them to my reviewer, and she's already said, oh, I bet it was great, and she has to listen to them, and then I get my final sign off. And then I don't know if I'll do that course, but I've got the qualification now, and so I'm thinking about, so what are my next steps would be writing like courses, or lots of different courses, but also setting up landing pages. So landing pages the same as sales pages.
Same thing. And you've been doing some beautiful, I mean, many of you have submitted written stuff for me to review, which I haven't done yet, but I will look at next week. So if you're waiting on me to get back to you, I'm certainly going to do it. I haven't forgotten. But Kate, your emails were so good. They were so great. I loved your emails, and I really enjoyed the fact that it felt to me at least that you really hadn't quite connected the value of what the emails could be as a marketing tool, but then you just totally got it, and you wrote these great emails with great stories in them that I feel like your audience are going to really enjoy reading. So more of that as your sales pages and landing pages, and then you'll be well on your way for marketing. You'll really see a change in your numbers, I think.
Yeah, they like the emails. I put a story about how when I got back into yoga after having children, and I was worried I'd fart, and they really loved that. So that's
So
a good.
good. Yeah, your stories are great. The one you wrote for the tradies was great. They're stories which people love. Human beings love stories. So yeah, it's really good.
So that's good. And so I've been thinking about doing these kind of couple retreats, just day retreats, because it was just, so beautiful. And I said to my husband, yes, I said, oh, surely we were like that with the first baby, but now it's hard to imagine. But it was so beautiful. So I've learned heaps. I've realized that I can't work nights anymore, so thank you for that. I just have to, I would have just probably continued doing the same schedule, so I'm going to cut my regular classes down to about 4 a week and just try and fill them up. And it's going to be amazing. And then do group what do you call them, group classes or
programs? Group classes. I think for you, a beautiful journey that I've seen is around that charging money piece too, like really just realizing that your work is of value and that it's completely fair and reasonable and valid, that people pay to receive your services.
Thank you. Yeah, and the doula service that seems to be booked up next year, so already till May, so it's pretty good. And I was thinking, I'm not going to cry when the girls were crying, and then Kirsten, you really touched me because I've totally struggled with all that stuff, and so I feel a little bit more confident now, but it's really challenging putting yourself out there. And like Katie says, you just got to keep going.
Keep going and keep reminding yourselves of your innate value and your innate worth that is nothing to do with how successful your business is, how many people sign up, how much money you make. Like, they are not connected. Your value and your worth stands separate to all of that stuff. And it doesn't mean that you don't work hard to make your businesses successful, but you're innately of value. And when we remember that, the attachment to the business, I think, becomes so much less. And then ironically, in some sort of weird energetic circle, actually your business starts to become more magnetic. It's a whole thing. Thank you. Thanks, Kate. Thanks, everyone. What a beautiful session. What a moving session. So lovely. I'm so grateful to all of you. Like, I just feel so blessed to be able to do this work. And I feel that again and again and again, I just get the universe sends me the most amazing women to work with. And you guys are all absolutely part of that. So I'm really, really hopeful that we'll continue to work together in whatever way. And that you guys will stay in our community and we'll all stay in connection, and we'll see each other on Zoom calls as we all move forward and in the membership. Because apart from anything else, and this was what I was saying earlier, that I was saying to my partner this morning, I was like, I just really want to keep seeing the journey, like I really want to see how things continue to grow and flourish and unfold. And I'm excited. I feel like genuinely excited to watch you all flourishing and expanding and growing. So thank you for giving me the opportunity to sit over these last few weeks in the seat of the teacher. And as I said, we've still got plenty of time together. I will get back to you over this next week with your written, the written work you've submitted, and we've still got the WhatsApp group active. And then, many of you have still got one-on-one sessions with me as well. Have a beautiful evening, ladies. Thank you so much. Thanks for making the time to be here with me today. Namaste. Namaste.